Year is coming to an end, and that always prompts me to do a super deep reflection and just sit in a lot of gratitude and process what happened this year. I spent way too much time making this Instagram post, but basically, I took my vision board that I made for 2025 and was like, okay, the vision versus reality. And I just like I went through like all my photos from this year and was like dropping in the stuff that applied to each. But it was a really cool experience and just actually made me go sit and reflect and remember everything that happened throughout the year. So I figured it'd be fun to kind of talk about that, talk about some of our wins, our lessons, our goals going into 2026, just do a little recap on the year.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like you do a way better job, much more in depth of kind of reflection. Like I feel like I'm not as much of a in the past guy. Like I'm moving forward, and and so like let's look at what's I can look forward to in the new year. But I do think it's really good to kind of reflect and at least not dwell in it, especially if it's negatives, but just kind of like what can I learn from it, or what did go well, and what can I learn from it in either way, and kind of reflect a little bit, and then push the accelerator and move forward.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with being in that mindset of okay, what's next? Let's get on to the next thing. But I feel like, at least for me, I don't think I'm very good at reflecting and zooming out. But that's why I force myself to, especially like with these pivotal moments or like New Year's or on my birthday or things like that. I force myself to go and sit in that a little bit more because I'm so used to just going to the next thing. I don't take that pause, so like it is really beneficial if you're one of those people that is just go go go. But it's definitely something you got to train. Like it is tough for me to go and sit and zoom out and reflect.
Yeah, but I mean, the year has been fun, right? And I feel like we've both grown, like personally and spiritually and physically and in business and just everything in life. So it would be cool. We talked about how fun it would be to kind of take you guys behind the scenes and kind of talk about the different things that we've learned and share, and maybe it can help you guys out as well.
Yeah, and I was thinking too, we should probably it would be fun to do another episode on kind of this sounds weird, but our failures from the year and just like how we take that. Like for me, even when I say failures, like anything that I didn't achieve or that didn't go right, like I never see it as a failure. Like it's there's always something good that came from it. I love the lesson or like what it shaped me to be. But I think a lot of people talk about all the wins and the highlights, which is what we're going to get into mostly today. But I think it is important to talk about. It's like, all right, what things didn't go the way that we wanted? What did we learn from it? I mean, part of that is today too, but I think it could be fun to like dive into that a little bit more and just show it's like we still go through the shit too. Like it's not all good and sunshine and rainbows like you see on the highlight reels or like you're gonna see on my Instagram post.
Oh yeah, I'm really good at making it look like it's all sunshine and rainbows on my side of things.
Hmm.
Which actually that's part of something I'm going to share here in a little bit. But yeah, and I think failure, at least my viewpoint, is such a negative word. So someone says like, "Oh, you failed at that." Like immediately I get defensive and I start thinking about how I did not fail. But in reality, what we mean by that and what most people mean by that is, okay, we're going to fail, and usually you're not going to grow until you fail a bunch of times. And so if you're able to look at that and say, okay, well, I failed this, I failed this time, I failed this time, this time, but you grew and you really built something all along that way to get to where you are now.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, like, even like I was saying, like I don't see it, failure as a bad thing. Like it's all good. Like everything that didn't go the way it wanted, or anything that like broke me down for a bit, like I see the good in it, and I'm grateful that it happened that way, and that like I use that as a tool moving forward. Like you gotta go through those moments. If you aren't tested, you're not gonna grow. So it's like it's a part of life, and we gotta learn to embrace those types of things. So, well, I mean, I think overall, my as I was sitting down and doing that reflection and making that post and everything, I just realized it was just a freaking insane year of growth. I feel like for me, there was a lot of big things that happened. I think some of the biggest ones for me was just like finding God, stepping into my faith a lot more. And like, I think in the beginning, I was just like dipping my foot in, but now I feel like I'm way more in it. Hired a lot of mentors for myself, business wise, fitness wise, which I've been talking about. We built like the most incredible team here at Unbreakable. There was a lot of refinement this year with having to let people go and just bringing on the right people, interviewing people, and all that. But I freaking love the team that we have and just even all the clients that we have. And just feeling a lot more aligned with the type of people that we get to connect with and we get to serve. I also work to still work in progress, but working to get myself out of that constant stress and grinding. I feel like I've kind of reverted the last few weeks, but made a lot of great strides on that front. And then obviously like I've kept everyone in tune with all my trips. I went to Egypt and Peru and Puerto Rico and then quit my job. That was a big one. Left the corporate world for good just growing as a leader through all this. And like, I think that's been a really big area of growth and just insane at like how I've been able to manage that and then grow in that area, which I really am enjoying. And just building more of that community and the deep relationships, overcoming social anxiety. There was a speech I wrote. That was kind of like one of the failures I have is like that speech with not doing it. But I think I grew so much through that process and prepping it and writing an incredible speech and then just falling back in love with volleyball. So lots of things. Like there's so many things in all different areas on my end. Um, Anything stand out to you as far as what happened in your year? Anything that stood out?
Well, I don't know if I have a laundry list of awesome things like you did. I mean, I think that was 2025 was pretty exciting for you.
For real, it was crazy.
Ways. This is kind of where I kind of looked at it as I thought about what I wanted to talk about tonight. Kind of broke it down into a couple three different categories, and it's kind of or not sums up, but kind of captures a lot of the things that I dealt with in life. And I didn't have any like huge major like changes or anything that is like wow, blown away. 2025 will be the year I remember this or anything like that. But there's a few things that kind of consistently went through that I looked at throughout the year that I reflected on and said, okay, here's some things that I learned from it, and I think I did pretty well. And here's some challenges that I'm still dealing with, and it's definitely going to be a work in progress, maybe for a while. But I thought, but I was kind of excited to say, okay, I moved a little bit in there, even though I still have a lot of room to grow.
Yeah. So, what are some of those areas for you?
So the first one I was thinking about was stillness. I've mentioned that a bunch of times, and I apologize if anyone's getting tired of hearing about it.
No, it's important. I feel like it's a never-ending thing. Like you always got to work on it, so it's valid.
Well, I really do feel like it is, and I almost so I kind of have this reputation, and this is what I want as well to come across as someone who's just super laid back and just really a relaxed guy, and I am in general. But there are a lot of times where I'm almost embarrassed to say like don't handle things very well, whether it's something that's happened to me or something that someone says to me, and so I've the kind of the first thing that I've realized as I really stressed and really focused on this is how quickly I react sometimes and react in a negative way. Like I might get super irritated or super anxious or super defensive, and so that stillness kind of has caused me to pause a lot. And even though, like I said, work in progress, you know, uh, realize, and then it caused me to pause and realize that I'm not good at pausing, and that's one thing I thought about, all these things that happen, I need to pause for a second and think about what is the appropriate way to respond? How should I respond? And a lot of this goes back to how would God want me to respond to this? And a lot of that's usually what I think after it happens. And I'm like, oh, okay, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have thought that. I shouldn't have responded like that. And that's, nothing I can do by now, but I need to continue to think about this and try to be more proactive and when things like that happen. So, um, and just kind of sitting with that feeling and thinking about it as opposed to just reacting and then moving on. And a lot of times even just blame it on that other person or that event, and instead putting that ownership on me and say, okay, I can't control a lot of these things. How can I, but I can control how I respond to it.
Yeah. I This actually makes me think a lot because I used to I feel like I went through this transformation a lot too. Like I used to be the same, just like everything would get me so riled up, and that's because I saw that in my dad's. Like that's how my parents operate. Just everything. Even now, like I go, like I can see the now that I'm on the other side. Like every time I go hang out with them, it's just like everything is this huge thing. It's always such a big deal, so emotional, such a big like angry reaction to everything. I'm like, bro, like it's not that serious, man. And I'm trying to think even like how I went and changed that when I was doing it. I think a lot of it would like comes from like you said, just being like controlling the things you can control, taking that like pause in between too, and just like giving yourself space in between stuff. And I think like doing extensive meditation and just mindfulness and a lot of those practices and journaling and diving deep into that has helped a lot too. But yeah, it really is tough, and I feel like it is such a test. But once you get to the other side, it's just like life is like when things don't affect you, like like anything is like nothing can impact you. Like you're just chilling, you're at peace no matter what, and I feel like that's such a good feeling.
That's my ultimate goal. I've said this before, but and I'm sure I'll never ever get to this point because he was perfect. But my ultimate, like Jesus laying on the boat in the middle of the storm. He's sleeping, taking a nap, and then, his disciples are freaking out. They're like, "Dude, wake up, Jesus!" Yeah, and he's like, "What are you worried about? Like, I've got this under control." And that's always my goal in the back of my mind, even though that's an unreachable
Yeah.
goal. But I want to most of the time I want to be like that. And I realized again, I got to take the ownership on me, and I've realized it's more so last few years, and I think a lot of it has to do with not being prepared for things. And what I mean by that is, I've always been really kind of laid back in like those big like championship sports games and things like that. And you get a little nervous, of course, but I've always been super excited. I've always performed really well. And I think part of it is just because I felt like I was so prepared for the game, practices and other games and things like that. And I was ready to go, and so it's like if you gave a big speech, if you practice it like you were ready to do it, right?
Oh
You
yeah.
write it down, you obsess over it, you practice it, you're ready to go. You get up there, and you perform that speech or you recite that speech. If you hadn't prepared for it and you just got up there, how nervous and how anxious and how stressed out would you be? And so I think that's what happens. And I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm leaving for in the morning, and I have a lot more responsibilities. Just they're little things, but before you know it, I'm like 3 or 4 minutes late. And so I'm trying to do it a little bit faster. And so I'm getting a little more frustrated with the people in front of me. And and then someone gets really slow and they're not driving the speed limit and they're slowing me back and I'm a little bit later. But it all comes back down to if I had just left 5 minutes earlier, no big deal.
Hmm.
Maybe that guy in front of me, who cares if he's slower? Or actually I would have been in front of them. And so it really all comes back to me not being as prepared for things. And that's just like a little example, but that's a lot of times that's kind of where I react to it. Or another thing, might just have like a lot on my plate. I'm trying to think of a lot of things, or I'm trying to do something, and someone's trying to talk to me about something, and I get kind of stressed out about something they're doing, and it's more so because all the other things that I'm dealing with that I haven't quite worked through in my mind or worked through that day, or the things that I'm doing, and so I think that's been something that I learned that you know if I have all that under control, I'm willing to imagine most of the time I'm going to handle it, I'm going to respond and react to that in a much better way. Like I feel like I did earlier when I had like less going on in my life, I was able to have a little more stillness.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense actually. I can definitely relate to that too. I feel like I've slipped into letting the stress and stuff just like distract me from showing up in the way that I want to. But yeah, and I feel like that's a different level of challenge too, with just like then navigating the schedule and like you said, being prepped for stuff and just adjusting things on that end. So I feel like also never ending practice, but yeah, I feel like it's a good thing to work on, and I feel like step by step you start to feel so much better, and just you catch yourself a lot sooner on those things.
Yeah, you really do. So that was kind of another thing that my second thing that I kind of thought about is I really have zero control over the things I want to control. And so, and what I mean by that is like other people's attitudes, unexpected changes, things that just go wrong. I was taking it very personally and just responding and reacting to it. And so stillness is teaching me. I wrote down taught me, but I'm still learning. Teaching me that I can't always control the waves. Right? We talk about going to the ocean. You can't always control what's going on, right? But I can control how I stand on them. And so, and I think also part of that has to do with the control thing. I'm much of a routine structure guy. Like I think I've used the example. I used to be so mad when like a late meeting at work or something like that messed up my workout schedule. Or, and I mean like not just like, oh man, I can't believe I'm, this messing up. Like this, like I was like angry and I just wanted to like throw things to the wall, just and it was like why are you letting that bother you? There's nothing you can do about that. And so, being able to just sit there, okay, you know what? Let's bring that back down. And so I've been working on things like that. So that I can't control everything. And so I've got to have that flexibility in my schedule and my routine that, okay, I'm a very structured guy. I like to have my routine, but you also have to be able to bend a little bit more and have those backup plans and happy with those backup plans that hey, if this happens, okay, no big deal. I'll work out later, or I'll work out in the morning, or double up the next day, whatever it may be, and that's helped me out a lot as well.
Yeah, no, I love that. I guess going along that theme, one of the lessons that I feel like I took from this year was I'm a lot stronger than I think. I can handle way more than I think. And I think this kind of comes down to the zooming out that we were talking about earlier too, but everything feels so heavy in the moment, but when I look back at it from this year, I reflect on it, or even just zoom out more in the moment, like everything works out okay.
Hmm.
And I learn and grow so much from those experiences. I think a really good example is quitting my job. Like that, that was something I debated honestly for years. And especially the months leading up to it, it was just like a constant on off cycle. And like it would tear me up every single day, especially once I committed to it, like the weeks leading up to it. Like every single day, I was just stressing and panicking, so many negative thoughts, so many what ifs, like, oh, I'm gonna fail, like I'm not cut out for, all the things. Like it was this huge thing. Like eating away from me for years, and especially those weeks leading up to it. And then I do it, and nothing changes. Like I think I just mentioned the other week is like I haven't even thought about it. Like I haven't even thought about the fact that I quit my job. Like it's just business as usual. Everything is fine. Like it's perfectly fine. So it's so funny how we work up and we feel like we can't handle it, we aren't capable or whatever it is, and like everything's good. Even with a lot of the employee turnover that we had. I mean, it wasn't a lot, but like I feel like when it's a small company, like anything that happens there, it's like a big thing, especially because like
Yeah,
I really
the
value
frost
the
was big, right?
yeah, and like I really value the relationships that we have. Like it is not just like an employee. Like it's a part of the team. Like it's someone who's super important in my life. So anytime that that comes up, like I said, it tested my leadership a ton. Like I always feel like, oh my god, like oh, we're gonna lose all the clients, the business is gonna fall apart, like everything's over, like all these things. And like yeah, it may be a lot more work in the moment and navigating that and making sure everyone's taken care of, but like in the end, like it all worked out how it's supposed to. Like you said, we have the most amazing freaking team ever now because of that and like the things that we had to change around there, and it just made me a much better leader. So it's like everything worked out perfectly. Like it's all fine, even though in the moment like those things felt so big and like I couldn't handle and like everything was gonna fall apart.
Yeah, those things feel really heavy, and then of course human nature tend to make it like way heavier. It's almost like we're just adding weights to it, and God's like, I wasn't going to add those weights. You're adding your own weights, type of thing. And He's like, why do you keep adding more? This is not that big of a deal. And someone told me or asked me one time. He said, "Do you think God wants you to be happy?" And I was like, "Well, yeah." And he's like, "No, not at all." And I was he goes, he goes, he wants you to be joyful. And he said, there's a difference there. And he was like, happiness is very fleeting. It's very simple. It's very fleeting. It comes and goes, temporary. He said, joy is something that you have forever. And being able to have joy means that you're able to be content. You're able to have that joyfulness despite your circumstances. So what he was saying is God wants you to on that super deep level of, hey, you know what? Life is not always gonna be perfect. And there's gonna be a lot of things he allows in your life, and there's gonna be a lot of things that he puts in your life on purpose that says, hey, you know what? It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be difficult. It's gonna be challenging, and I'll help you through it if you lean on me. But what I want you to eventually get to is that no matter what the circumstances are, what happens in your life, I want you to be content. I want you to be joyful through that, knowing that in the end, I'm going to be there for you and I'm going to take care of you.
So good. Yeah, it's true. And I think if you can remember that even when you're in the thick of it, and just like think about all the other times, like I think I can use these examples like, okay, yeah, this whatever situation I'm going through now feels like it's the end of the world, but it's like what happened last time I felt like this? Like everything worked out perfectly. Like it's fine. And so like again, that's one of those things that's really tough to practice in the moment, but I think the more you train yourself to do that, the more you have these moments to reflect on, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So another thing, this is a little bit lighter, is I decided, and it wasn't even like a long thought out process. I think it was just like a couple of days, like, you know what? I just want to get like a lot more shredded, especially, and maybe, you know what? I think it was at around my birthday. I was like, oh, I turned 48. I was like, let's still challenge myself. I feel like I was pretty ripped up when I was like young in my 20s, but let me prove that I can do this to myself. I really didn't even care what anyone else thought, and so I call it like surfer shredded, type of thing. And so I realized one, it's very difficult to achieve that. And then I realized that it's extremely difficult to stay like that. And the reason I wanted to bring it up tonight wasn't to like trying to, you know, talk about myself or show off or anything like that. It was more so because I feel like a lot of people get on Instagram or they get on, social media or whatever, and they see these fitness models who are shredded and they're like, I want to be like that and I want to look like that. And if they're not, then they feel like a failure. Like they feel like I'm not good enough or I don't look good enough. And the reality is, one, it's extremely difficult to get to that point. And it's very debatable whether it's even ever healthy to get to that point. And most people can be very satisfied, very happy with they look without getting to that extreme. And so there's again, a lot of people say, I want those like shredded abs. I want to be ripped up like that. And what's going to happen, and I kind of experienced this myself, but you're going to have physiological changes, psychological changes, lifestyle related changes. It just basically, you become just obsessed with every single little thing, right? So like obsessed with every single calorie that you put in your body, obsessed with training. You have to be as intense as possible. You got to make sure that I'm tracking my training and make sure I'm trying to get stronger every single workout, and track food exactly the way I put it in, and every single little thing, and sleep, and planning what your meals and what's gonna happen the rest of the day, and spontaneous choices are out the window. And so everything, there's just like a lot of lifestyle costs. Going out to eat is extremely difficult. It's almost like you can't do that. Start getting more cravings because you're dropping down those calories, right? And food just becomes a bigger part of your mental space. It becomes more of an obsession. And so it's a challenge. It's difficult. And if that's something you want to do, you know, go for it. You can try it, but it's extremely difficult. You got to kind of weigh, like, is it really worth it? And then also on the other side of things, do you really need to get there? Does that really need to be like that goal of, are you going to be kind of going back to, are you really going to be happier if you're ripped up? I think sometimes we think, oh, I'll be happier if I have more money, if I'm happier if I look like this. And, if you get to that point and be like, okay, now I'm ripped and shredded, what's going to happen now? And I'll be honest with you, you know, not many people commented on it for me. It's like, maybe, you're out there. So like, if you're looking for people to make comments on it every single day, you're not going to get that. So, if you're trying to get validation or anything like that, if you do it, you really need to do it just for yourself and just for a challenge to, hey, can I do this? Can I get there and see how it feels and what it looks like, but not for anyone else, and not to think that, hey, this is going to be my end goal and this is where I want to be and this is where I want to stay for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's like sometimes there's a lot of value in like, hey, I just want to prove to myself that I can get there. But then you have to assess. It's like, all right, is this realistic? Is this aligned with what I want to do long term? Maybe it's a period where it's like, yeah, I want to stay locked in, be super disciplined, and then maybe it's like, okay, I want more of that balance and sustainability. So, yeah, I think it's cool that you were able to achieve that. So, I guess what's your vision now? Realizing that's okay, this is really hard to maintain. What are your goals for that going into the new year?
Well, see, now this is where I struggle, right? Because after I say all that, I've increased my calories, and I'm going on more of a reverse diet, and not as happy with it. So like, I mean, there's nothing wrong, I'd be satisfied, whatever. But you think back and be like, man, like I was pretty ripped up, like, and so for me, what I'm at least attempting to this year is to kind of go through phases, so that I'm not just stuck in that trying to zone all the time. Like I'm put myself in reverse diet, then I'll go through a cutting phase, put myself in reverse diet, cutting phase, throw in some maintenance level phases in there as well. And so it's like you said, kind of more balance it out, and maybe just try to set it up so like, hey, I'm going on a beach trip, dial it in a little bit so I feel really good on the beach. But then, do I really need it when it's like 17 degrees out, snow, and I have like 18 layers on?
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, yeah, no, you did get super shredded, so I think it is gonna be good to go through cycles, and I feel like it's gonna be even better, like, once you reverse diet and, like, get back down, it's like, I feel like it can be easier to maintain that, like, once you get your metabolism to a better spot and, like, when you have more muscle mass and everything too, so I feel like it'll only get better.
Yeah, and if you ever do go through this, you do learn how to do things for yourself, and how your body responds to it, and the timing and things like that. And again, it kind of start off as a challenge, and like you mentioned, if you're looking at this like, hey, I want to challenge myself, I want to, whatever you do in life, set that challenge. But also know that a lot of the things that we challenge ourselves, like extreme, is not meant to stay there for us for life. We kind of need to back out of it. We can get back into it, that's fine. But we're want to kind of stay more of in a Goldilocks zone of balance, and a place where our body feels really good.
Yeah, I agree. And that kind of ties into one of my lessons too regarding the health. Because I kind of also went through that period where I was like getting a little more shredded, definitely not to the level that you were at, but I was pretty dialed in for a bit there. And then things kind of slipped. And basically, the overall theme for this year, though, was like I need to put my health above everything else. And it's like because again, like I've been training, like I haven't stopped training. I always eat well. So it's like not like I've sacrifice it, but like certain areas would just like putting work over like getting more sleep and just letting my chronic stress build up. So it's more of like that area. Sleep being a big one. It's like every single time I've seen the best results is when I'm sleeping. And now kind of like I mentioned the other week, it's like I've really been prioritizing that. Even over work is like, yeah, I'm not getting my work done. Yeah, it's stressing me out a little bit, but like I feel so much better and my body's responding so much better. So it's like sleep needs to be top priority. And just same with the stress is like I've let my chronic stress get so bad to where now I have major hormone and gut issues that I have to go and undo and reverse, which is part of the, failures that I'll eventually talk about failures, I say. But it's like that needs to be top priority. And like that's something that I have been putting, like really making an effort to put above everything else and try to work on reducing my workload and everything and giving myself more space, not working as much, prioritizing the relationships and experiences and all those things. I mean, these are all the same things that we preach to clients, but it is so hard, especially for I'm actually talking to my old boss, which is really cool. He reached out to me and said that like me quitting my job like really inspired him to go and like do his own thing and just the work that I've done. Like he burns himself out. He's been like basically killing himself with the work hours. And so like I'm literally coaching him on like doing the same thing. I'm like, bro, I get it. It's like the hardest thing you'll ever do. Like my coach told me that. I'm telling him that I'm like, it's literally the hardest fucking thing you'll do, but it's so worth it. But like it's so challenging, and like I know because like we work with clients on this too. Like I get how tough it is, but that's been a big thing for me that I've just realized time and time again as I've seen the benefits and when I've let it slip, and then I see all the side effects of that. It is so important.
Oh, it is very challenging, and I think it's a great message and something to learn for our clients as well, because everyone focuses so much on the nutritional side of things and the exercise side of things. And we get clients sometimes that will do everything we ask them to do nutritionally and in the gym. And they're like, you know what, I'm not seeing as much results as I'd like, or, I saw great results and now I'm hitting a plateau. And it's just so hard for people to understand how much the lack of sleep or maybe just not good quality sleep and stress just really affects your body. And like you said, messes up your hormones and things like that. And that affects your body and how it's going to handle losing weight and speeding up the metabolism or slowing it down. And so sometimes it's almost like because we don't see that. We're not like, we see the food and we feel it and we eat it. And we go exercise, we feel that pain or we feel that joy, whatever it may be when we're hitting the weights. But then the stress and the sleep, it's not as like, I don't know, right there in front of us. It's kind of there and we know we experience it, and we know it's important, but we don't think it's going to affect our results and our progress.
Stress that enough. Again, something I'm working on too. Not perfect by any means, but yeah.
Well, that's also, I was just thinking, kind of the fun part of your health journey is I don't think anyone is ever finished. Like, I don't think anyone's been like, look, I am like a 10 in every single aspect. I don't even know what to do next in my life. It's like, no matter where you could be a 10 in your workouts, but there's something else you can work on. And sometimes it fluctuates depending on the time of year, depending on what you're going through in life, how old you are. There's just a lot of things that are going on. And so it's just, one month you may be working on your workouts, the next month you may be working on your nutrition and stress the next month. And just until you're slowly working and building those anchor habits to the point where you get, okay, I'm not a 10 on any of these, I fluctuate maybe between a 7 and 9, but there's times where I get like all eights and I'm feeling really good. And I'm tweaking things as I go.
Yeah, such a good point.
One of the other things I was thinking about too this past year was communication. I'll be honest, I don't feel like I'm great at communicating just in general in life. And I think part of that just has to do with me being very introverted and keeping a lot of things to myself. Like anytime something's very challenging or in my life or like I absorb it all, and everything's internal and I want to deal with it and I don't want to talk about it. And so I think that's hindered my maybe ability to learn how to communicate or open up. And so, just think about things like assuming what people knew what I meant, or assuming that people understood my intentions, my tone, my boundary, even my silence. Like someone understand why I'm being quiet, and a lot of times people just don't know like what we don't say, and so I think that's one of the biggest things I've learned is just like unclear communication kind of creates its own little chaos. And so even though a lot of times in a lot of situations I feel like okay, not communicating very well or just doing keeping it all to myself is going to just I'll deal with the burdens or I'll deal with this or the challenge and like that. And really that's just caused extra layers of issues, extra layers of problems that then I have to go back later and either pull that all back in again or I have some issues. So that I have to double down on, right? So, just things about, just being honest and open about your feelings and your thoughts and expressing your needs, expressing what you desire and what you want in life and listening. I think that's part of the communication. I think sometimes we think about just like talking, but actually listening to understand, listening to see what the other person is, their viewpoint, and not being so defensive and jumping back into like, oh, well, they're saying that. Well, why don't you slow down and listen to what they're saying, and maybe they're not communicating it well, and so give them the opportunity and space to explain, or maybe think about it at a deeper level. Say, okay, this is what they said, didn't make any sense, or I don't agree with it. Maybe they were trying to say it a different way, or maybe they were coming from a different viewpoint or a different perspective or a different background.
Yeah, communication is everything. It's so complex too. Like there's so many little nuances. Like I could go down a million different rabbit holes with just everything you said, but I think that's so good. And it can be so challenging, especially when you're not used to doing that. And there can be a lot of fears around it too. It's like, oh, how are people going to respond? Are they going to like you lash out? Are they not going to, are they going to misunderstand me? Whatever it is. But I think it's so good. Just like everything, just put it out there. Just be as honest, straightforward as possible because people can't read your mind. You can't read other people's minds. So just like lay it all out there. Tell people what you want, like what you're thinking. But yeah, definitely a tough thing, especially when you're not used to doing it.
Well, and if you're not as outgoing, and there's some people, these people that are just there, they will say anything and everything that's on their mind. You don't even have to ask that, that they're going to tell you. And I'm like the opposite. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people out there. And sometimes too, maybe this is just like insecurities or lack of confidence. Sometimes is you're like, you want to say something, but like that person doesn't care. Like they're not going to take any value from it. And so sometimes I've tried to go out of my zone and be like, you know what, just say something, even if they just kind of blow it off or whatever. And like for example, like yeah, I'll see someone working out that I think some really cool, whatever situation, and a lot of times I just keep myself. I won't say anything. But this past year, like I've gone up to a couple like dads that were working out with their kids, and I was like, to go up to them, you should say like, hey, I think that's really awesome. You're working with their kid. Who cares what they think? And so I've done that, and both responses were like, hey man, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. And you could tell like they appreciated that someone recognized that they're working out with their son and they're being a great role model and a father and stuff like that. And or you go up to someone and be like, hey, someone that's very overweight maybe and they're working hard and just goes, hey, I see your effort. Like you come in here every day, you're looking really good. You're doing a great job with this, and you'd be amazed at the response. Be like, well, thank you very much. Like I really appreciate that. And so just things like that. People do care about, what you have to say and your thoughts, and they want to hear what's on your mind. And I think it's cool to express and be a little more open and be a little more willing to share your thoughts and feelings.
For sure. I know that's something you and I have been working on a lot too. I think on like both of our ends is because I tell you, I'm like, yo, I want to hear like when you're struggling. I want to know, I just want to know what's going on in your life because I love when we hop on the meets. I'm like, how's everyone's weekend? You're like, good. I'm like, okay.
I know, and that's a little more of a guy thing, right? You ask a guy like, "How you doing?" You're like, "Good," because a lot of times we just kind of like I said, we keep it all in. And but I tell my kids, my kids in my class as well as my own kids, I remember as a kid, my mom or dad would say, "Hey, how was your day?" I was like, "Good," or they're like, "What happened?" Nothing. Nothing happened the entire day.
Yeah.
And so I tell my kids in my class, like, guys, look, when your mom or dad asks you something, tell them like one thing.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, it was good. I played, football at recess. That's they just want to hear something. They just want to hear like you had a happy day and you had a good time and stuff like that. And so I need to remember my own advice. Like, look, people want, and it's the other thing too is getting I don't know how I want to say this, but getting other people to open up and being kind of like that person that people like to be around. And of course, I want to do that with my own clients. I want to find different ways that I can connect with them and have all kinds of conversations, whether it's about a health journey or just anything outside of life. And so I'm trying to do a better job at just talking about all kinds of things. But just even seeing someone in the hallway, there's a big difference between like seeing someone, at your work or at a store and be like, hey, how you doing? They're going to say fine or good, how you doing? And that's kind of the end of it. And so what I've been trying to do is add a little more depth to it. And so especially if it's someone I know, I'll be like, hey, how you doing? Great. Any fun plans for the weekend? Or how was your weekend? Or bringing up something that that they connect to, and get them to kind of open up to you and share something about their life, and definitely improves relationships in general. But even if you don't have a great relationship with them, or it's just kind of a passing by or type of thing, I think it makes that person feel a lot better, because there are honestly a lot of people out there that don't have a whole lot of people to talk to.
Oh, for sure. It goes such a long way. Yeah, and especially when it's people that like you care about or have a relationship with, it just really deepens that. Like that's why you and I have both been really working on. Like I want to have like a really solid, deep relationship. Oh, that's just part of it too. Just like I want to know what's going on in your life, and like vice versa. I feel like my last one kind of similar to that in a sense. It's more of just like boundaries are so important. I had to cut out a lot of people in my life that didn't serve me, and some of it was just more like subtle, just it's like people that just drained at me or just didn't align with where I was at. And so I just like I wouldn't reach out. Likely they didn't reach out to me either. So it's like it's easy to kind of let those things fizzle. And there's some where it's like they don't leave. And so like you gotta be ruthless and then be like, yo, get the fuck out. So like I've had to do some of that too, and like those ones are very hard for me. Like there's definitely people recently, especially where I had to draw very hard lines and literally be like, "Yo, like I don't want to interact with you at all. Like please respect my boundaries," and like lay it out that way. And it's just very challenging. And I let it go too far to the point where it's like I had to make it that extreme just because I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt. I tend to see the good in people, even when it like I'll sacrifice myself for other people way too much. And so like just learning to find those boundaries and know when to do that and trust my gut on it has been super important. That goes for any relationship. But another thing too is just setting boundaries when people don't quite match my standards. And that can be hard when it's like they're not doing anything wrong. It's just like you have a certain level that you're operating at. And I think this has especially come in business, especially is very applicable today. But it's like if they don't match their standards, like they need to go, unfortunately. And again, it doesn't need to be like completely cut out in certain situations, but it's like if they aren't making you better, it's like you got to be ruthless. And then kind of going back to that first point too, is like people treat you how you let them treat you. It's like there's one person in particular that I had to draw that set boundary. It was like I was letting them walk all over me. Like I was letting them treat me that way. I was letting them drain and suck my energy. So that's on me. Like that's where the ownership comes into, and just being very confident, setting those boundaries, and being able to stick to them.
Well, yeah, and this is coming out in January, and there's going to be a lot of people that are wanting to make a lot of major changes, and whether that's with your health journey or your work or career, things like that. There are going to be people, and sometimes it's well intended, sometimes not, but then it could be really good friends that they don't want to see you change, and they don't want to see you grow, and they're happy with where they are, and they want you to kind of be stuck with them, and so sometimes it's really difficult, but you have to either let them go, or you have to just spend less time, and they just may not be as big of a part of your life, because you don't want to be held back by those that don't want to grow and don't want to change, and when you really want to and really need to.
Yeah. And again, you can do this in a very kind way. Like we're not going to get into how to do that. That could be a whole episode on its own. It's like seriously, be fucking rootless. Like with protecting your space, your energy, your goals. You need to do that. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter the situations. Like protect your space, your energy. Like you have to do what you need to do for you, and it's going to propel you so much forward and provide you so much more peace. Part of boundaries too is just like more boundaries for myself. And like one question that I've been trying to remind myself of every day is like, what do I want to be known for? How do I want to be known every day? Just in my daily interactions, like when I leave volleyball, it's like, how do I want people to perceive me? How do I want to like leave that space? Like, do I want to provide like energy and positivity? It's like, that's, and like I have to set boundaries for myself to make sure that I can show up in that way or do the things I need to do to operate at that level. So like those have been questions that are like been top of mind for me and like really fire me up to make sure that I'm showing up the way that I want, setting the standard that I want.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a sample of our year. I'm sure we could have spent hours if we really want to go deep into a lot of things because, but there's some messy parts of our year. We had wins, we had, stretching, meaning that we're getting pulled a little bit different ways and learned a lot of lessons and things that we're very proud of and things that we're obviously still working on. I think when I reflect, I looked at more so of the things that I need to work on. But, they're wins. I mean, I've said this. I mean, I feel like I'm very blessed, and I think every year I've been very joyful about what's going on in my life. And there's obviously a lot of things that I can learn and grow from, and would love to change. But that's just you know something that goes on. And so, very transformative year for both of us, so personally and professionally, and obviously getting to share this journey with all of our audience is it means a lot to us, and we're really appreciative you guys stay with us and listen to us.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, and I hope this encourages everyone to just reflect on your own year, take some time to zoom out, appreciate the progress that you made, like just really celebrate yourself, like what you accomplished, who you became, what you learned, and then what you want to bring into the next season, next year. But yeah, we'll see you guys next week for our first episode of the new year. We got some big things planned for 2026, and we love you guys. We appreciate you, and happy freaking New Year, baby! Let's go.